In 2017, you're still going to have crises. We still have Brexit. That's going on for years. You've got these French elections, Dutch elections. You're going to have much more terrorism. You have a big refugee problem. You got to deal with the Turks, who are going through an executive presidency referendum that they will win, and they will become an authoritarian state. And Merkel's ability to respond to that, or Trump, or the Russian rapprochement and the European sanctions, not what it was. So Europe looks a lot weaker in this environment. And it's hard to make a big bet on Europe going forward. Europe is going to look more like core and periphery, very separated. And if Le Pen wins in France, which is possible, I don't know if you've seen this, but the Russians just set up RT France last month with $20 million of official investment. That's not coincidental. That's linked to the elections. Steve Bannon's been very supportive of Le Pen. You also have Breitbart now setting up an office and Breitbart in France. That's going to have influence. I mean, if Le Pen wins, it's a very different outlook for Europe. It's a very different capability to even keep the core Eurozone together, but certainly no willingness to respond to the next leg of the Greek crisis. If they have early elections and the IMF has to provide them with bailouts, there's no more haircut for the Greeks. Merkel is going to be pressured by her Minister of Finance, Schäuble, not to do it, and all the rest of the Europeans are going to say no. So you don't have the resilience in Europe that you did. Now, Russia clearly looks better, right? There's no question that Obama failed in his foreign policies in Russia, which is one of the reasons why it's hard for the Democrats and even the establishment Republicans to criticize Trump for wanting to engage. Because what did Obama say? Obama said, you must leave Ukraine or else. Or else what? Or else sanctions that the Europeans will support weakly. And the Chinese will ignore, and we won't do anything to the Chinese. And they won't affect your economy very much anyway. That didn't work very well. Assad must go. Must go. Or else what? Or else, I guess I have to go first, President Obama. It is really easy for Trump to say that failed, right? I mean, remember when the Russians are engaging in hacking against the U.S. election, which Reince Priebus has now said Trump admits did actually happen, though Trump hasn't said it himself, but nonetheless, he said it. Obama's response was, I told Putin, cut it out. I mean, what's he, the younger brother? Stop touching me, right? That never stopped me as the older brother. I touch him more. Do stuff like that just to show him I can touch him, right? So it's really easy for Trump to say, I can make this better. Having said that, Russia is like the 15th largest economy in the world. It's smaller than Canada. It's smaller than Italy. A great U.S. relationship with Russia says more about how much weak powers are capable of subverting stronger powers. It shows you that central governance is getting weaker. It's getting less legitimate. The ability of your big national governments to actually make good on your social contract. You'll get a job. Your kids will have a future. We'll keep you secure. We'll keep your information secure. We'll make your elections legitimate. That's actually getting a lot harder. That's the interesting trend here, that central governments are becoming weaker. The interesting trend is not that Trump was just elected. The interesting trend is that most of the interesting stuff in the U.S. is increasingly happening in states and in cities and with multinational corporations. If there's a threat to Trump in 4 years' time, it's not from the Democrats. It's from Zuckerberg. It's from Silicon Valley. It's from people that are subverting the whole nature of what U.S. governance is going to be. That's what's really interesting.